We are live. What's up, my friend? Abbie here, and welcome back to another Write With Me live stream. This is our first writing session of 2022. So, welcome. Hi, everybody. So glad to see all your smiling faces in the chat. Tell me if you can see me and hear me okay. That's the first thing we have to get out of the way. I believe everything is working. I'm all good to go. Who's ready to write today? I'm so excited to write because I have not had enough writing days this week, and I'm really excited to get into today's project, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. But for now, tell me where you're tuning in from. I know you guys were chatting before I showed up, and I am always left out of that part. So tell me where you're from, where you're tuning in from, where you're writing today, and what you're working on. What is your current writing project? I'd love to hear all about it. Okay, everyone can hear me? Awesome. Great. Fabulous. Awesome. Writers from all over the world. Again, it's so cool. I'm so glad that you're here. It's so fun to come together and have these writing sessions to encourage each other and to just connect as a community. It's amazing. Fix my shutter there because the sun finally came out. I thought it was going to be cloudy. A bunch of clouds came out, but it looks like the sun is back. So hopefully it stays out. You guys look like you're working on a lot of fun projects. Super exciting. The project I'm working on today is going to be a piece of the co-write project that I'm writing with my sister. We are writing a book series together, as you may or may not know, depending on how long you've been around here. We're writing a action adventure mystery series together, and it's been super fun, and we're so close to the end. I am working on chapter 36, and we have 3 chapters after that, and then the first book is finished. The first draft of the first book, I should say. So lots of editing and revisions still to come, but it's still an exciting moment when you reach the end of a first draft. So that's where I'm at today, and I'm super excited to write and finish this chapter, hopefully, while we're here on the live. While everybody jumps on, I'm just going to chat for a few minutes. If this is your first time here, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. And here's how live streams work. So we're going to do writing sprints, 3 writing sprints, 25 minutes each, with short breaks in between to pause and take a breather and chat about our stories. And you can ask me questions during those breaks, and I will randomly choose some questions from the chat to answer. Okay. So we'll do 3 sprints total. That will take us to a 2-hour writing session. If you can't stay for the whole time, I totally understand, but just stay for however long you can. Get as many words as you can written, and it'll be fun, okay? You can do this. You can do this. A lot of you guys are joining me for the first time. I saw earlier in the chat when I checked on my live stream page that I saw a few of you saying that this is your first time doing it because of schedules and time zone conflicts and stuff like that. It's always so difficult to figure out a time that is great for everybody, because obviously we have writers all over the world in this community, which is amazing, but time zone differences are not so amazing, right? So this seems to be like the sweet spot I've found where the most time zones can join. So that's why I usually do it at 1 o'clock. But there will also be future live streams at different times of day, different days of the week, so that if you couldn't join today because of your schedule and your lifestyle, hopefully you can join the next one. I'm going to try doing these more often than once a month. So I want to do them like at least once every 3 weeks. And that will hopefully give us more opportunities to write together. Okay, so everybody's jumping on. Kate is here. Say hi to Kate in the comments in the chat. She's there looking out for you guys and searching for any possible important questions that I miss. Oh, I'm so glad you loved 100 Days of Sunlight. Movies meet their match. I'm so glad that you enjoyed the book. Thank you so much. Also, I want to say before we get started, everybody always asks me about Super Chat And if you haven't been to one of my live streams before, you might not know, but Super Chat is a fun way to support me here on the live stream, support my channel and what I'm doing here on YouTube. And it is super easy to participate. And what happens is your comment gets highlighted, pinned to the chat so that I see it, more likely to see it. You guys call me out if I miss those Super Chats. But if I'm missing your question, Super Chat's a good way for me to see it. And also a good way to support what I'm doing here on YouTube. So there's that. I always appreciate you guys so much. Thank you for all the support and all your encouragement. It's amazing. Can you make a writer's group chat? That's a question I get asked a lot. And I'm really, really interested in figuring this out this year. That's actually on my goals. On my goals for 2021, I want to figure out something like a Discord, or I have never even looked deep into it, but I've had a lot of requests for it. Something that can be more of a social platform, whether it's Discord or something else. I want there to be a place where we can all come together and hang out just like this without the live streams. So the live streams obviously will continue to happen on YouTube. I will continue to do that, but I love to build a off-site community where we can all hang out like this. So good request. I've had this request sent to me quite a lot, so I'm definitely considering this more seriously in this new year. Did I just say my goals for 2021? Because if I did, I'm just tired and I meant to say 2022. Is it just me, or did it feel like last year totally flew by? Okay, everyone loves Discord. Everyone's on board with Discord. I'm going to figure it out. I promise. I will figure it out, and it will be great. So, trying to figure out my fan here. Okay, I think that's good. Who's ready to write? I'm ready to get into the project. I have my Scrivener project already pulled up, and I'm really excited to get into this. I started writing like first thing this morning, but I had to break to do some boring work and other annoying responsibilities, so we're back. A super chat just came in. Thank you so much to Daisy. Hopefully I'm saying your name right. Thanks for everything. You helped me a lot without knowing it. So greetings and love from Switzerland. Thank you so, so much. Thanks for the super chat, and I'm so glad that my channel has helped you. It means so much to me. Okay, awesome. So everybody ready to write? Get your Scrivener projects open, or your Word documents, whatever you're writing in today, and let's get into it. I'm going to set my timer for 25 minutes. So you can set your timers if you want to, but you will probably hear my timer ring if you keep your audio on. 25 minutes on the clock. Let's get into it. There's timer number 1. Let's finish this sentence. Okay, so how did sprint number 1 go? Let me know in the chat. If you like sharing your word count, feel free. I just starting to get into this. My first sprint is never very much. So looks like you guys had a good session. 1,000 words. Wow. 500, 400, 300, 117, 1,100. Awesome. Great job, guys. I'm glad it went well. We're going to go into our next sprint in just a few minutes, but first, we're going to take a quick break and I'm going to answer a few questions. So let me get this straight. In writing an action series, how do you pace things correctly? This is a good question. This is a timely question because I'm writing an action series right now. As I said, it's mostly action adventure, and pacing is definitely something that comes into play a lot. Something that you definitely want to pay attention to because you don't want nonstop high intensity action, right? You need this flow of the story's pacing in order for there to feel like there are distinct climactic moments. It really depends on what structure you're using, and that's where I would put your focus is with story structure. Story structure is a great way to figure out the pacing of your story as a whole because you can kind of see from a bird's eye view where your climaxes are, where are the high intensity moments, where are the high, like very do or die moments in the story, and where is the descending action. So I use the 3-act story structure a lot, but I know that with a series, that structure has to be changed and adapted a little bit. And another way that I try to compartmentalize it and for my own story is almost thinking about it in the form of episodes. So for every 60-ish pages, you could consider that like an episode, okay, or 50 to 60 pages. And you could construct your flow of your story and climaxes according to these more episodic chunks, so to speak. This is something that I'm currently using and finding really helpful in this book that I'm writing right now. I am using the 3-act story structure, like kind of overarching for the whole book, but I'm also in the back of my mind using this flow of really sequences. And I've talked about this before, but they're really larger sequences of a greater whole. And for me in this book, these sequences are about 60 pages. And in this sequence, you could think of it like an episode of a TV show where you have a inciting incident moment, right? And you have rising action, you build up to a climax towards the end and maybe end with like a cliffhanger. And just observing this flow has been really helpful for me. But of course, it depends on what story structure you prefer. But I find that that's really helpful for writing action because you don't want nonstop action. You don't want like climax after climax after climax because then there's no climactic moments, right? If everything is always high intensity and fight scenes and chase scenes, you need to break it up, obviously. So story structure is my secret weapon for that. Definitely check out my series on the 3-act story structure for more help on that. Okay, let's see. I think I missed a super chat. Yes, I did. Super chat, thank you so much from Starlight. Any tips on writing a mute girl's point of view? This is something that I would definitely recommend reaching out to sources that are like sources that can really help you with writing points of view that you may not have the experiential knowledge of what this character may be experiencing. There are people out there who have experienced the exact same thing. I would recommend finding them, reaching out to them, explain your story and what you have going on in your story, and explain that you want to accurately and respectfully represent this character and this disability or whatever it is you're writing about. And you will be surprised by how people are so friendly and wonderful and willing to help you, because they also want to see those characters accurately represented in fiction. So I would recommend doing that. Do your research and reach out to people who have been through the same thing, who experienced the same thing, and they will be able to help you so much. This is what I did with 100 Days of Sunlight and helped me a lot. Do you have any tips on world building and writing entirely new and different cultures? This is something that I get asked a lot, and it's interesting because it's so much a part of the writing process with fantasy or sci-fi or whatever it is you're writing, but it's also not necessarily as important as some writers think it is. So I would do a lot of development off screen, right? Off, like in your notes and your outlines and all of that, but only bring in the pieces of world building that directly impact and matter to the point of view character when they're mattering to the character. Now, this is really helpful for developing world building if you do it all in your notes, in your outlines. And I say this because I have seen many writers make the mistake of they start to write the book and they start world building almost as they're writing, and they end up including way too much information, way too much exposition, just way too much of everything. Before we even start asking questions, we're getting all these answers, and we're not even asking the questions. We're just getting info dumped with all of this world building and exposition, and it's overwhelming. So my advice for world building is always to develop as much as you want off screen, so to speak, backstage. Make all the notes you want on the different cultures and magic systems and governments and whatnot, but only bring in the bits and pieces that matter to the characters. Okay, when we start learning about the world and the cultures and the government and all of this stuff, before we even learn about the characters or what matters to them, we don't care, because we don't relate to that. We relate to characters, we relate to internal conflict, and why does anything matter to them? That's what we want to know about right away. So as far as building different cultures, I mean, the sky's the limit. You can really do anything that you want. I would draw inspiration from cultures that you genuinely find yourself attracted to, you find yourself writing about a lot, or you want to learn more about, and make it your own. This is something that I'm continually improving on and getting better at. So I definitely don't consider myself like an expert on world building, but it's something that I really enjoy, because it amazes me how you can build this whole world kind of backstage and then bring in this character that we learn about, that we care about, that we meet right away, and only bring in those pieces that matter to the character, and slowly that world opens up bigger and bigger for them. And we're experiencing it, exploring it through the eyes of that character. So hopefully that helps. Okay, let's get into our next writing sprint. I want to get back into it. I'm going to answer more questions in the next session. Wait, one more super chat just came in from Kathy. Thank you so much, Kathy. Do you ever ditch a novel? I was line editing and noticing problems and may have to totally rework things. Also, please comment on how to write man versus nature, and other like antagonists that are not humans. So yes, I have ditched novels before, but I don't really like to say that I've ditched them completely because like I might eventually make something out of them, but what I try to do is focus on what I feel confident in, what I genuinely love, and I want to focus all my energy into improving. If that's not the book that you're currently looking at, then maybe it's time to put that aside, put it in a drawer, and work on something else. I also like to remind myself that Jane Austen put Pride and Prejudice in a drawer for like 11 years. She started writing it and she was like, not feeling it, and put it away for a long time and eventually came back and finished it, and the rest is history. So I think it's never wise to completely delete what you've written. Obviously, I would not recommend doing that. I would recommend saving it, setting it aside. If you're not feeling it right now, maybe you will have new ideas on how to improve it later and you'll reignite your passion for it some other time. So that's my personal view on it. That's what I've personally done. As far as non-human antagonistic forces, this is one of my favorite things to write, really, because I write a lot of contemporary, and contemporary tends to not have villains, tends to not have antagonists that are imposing bad things on your main character. Usually it's something like society or your main character's internal conflict, something else that is against them, that is putting them into an impossible position. So this same rules apply for your character's internal conflict, focusing on your character's desires, fears, misbeliefs. What is their fatal flaw? Why do they believe this thing about the world that isn't necessarily true? That is going to be ultimately the antagonistic force that they are facing. That's going to be what challenges them to a climactic confrontation with their beliefs. Okay, it doesn't have to be a person. They are challenging and facing their greatest fear and overcoming it, changing as a result. That's a character arc, essentially. So lots to say on that. But check out my Climax video on my channel, how to write a climax. In that video, I talk about how you don't have to have an antagonist person or being who is trying to destroy your main character. It could be their beliefs. It could be their fear. So let's get back to writing sprint number 2. Let's get into it. 25 minutes on the clock. Get your timers ready. Ready? Okay, I'll answer more questions on our next break, but for now, let's write. to string. That just like flew by. How did it go? I'm finally getting into the scene. Always takes me like at least 2 sprints to feel like I'm fully immersed in the scene. Let's see, how much have I written? About 600 words so far. Share your word count in the comments or the chat if you so desire. Looks like you guys had a good sprint. 700 words. 1,500. Awesome. Edited 50% of my story. Wow. Congratulations. That's great. Awesome. So everyone's getting a lot of work done. Fabulous. Okay, great. Randomly We Go Soccer, I'm so glad you're here and that you've finally been able to join us. Welcome and thanks for being here. Keep up the great work. Okay, so we're gonna answer a few questions and then we're gonna get into our third and final writing sprint, okay? So, super chat just came in. Thank you so much to Sydney. I often get a lot of ideas that are out of order in terms of the story. So how do you stay on track chronologically without feeling stuck? This is something I do a lot. I write a lot of scenes out of chronological order because I find that when I get inspired to write something, I just want to sit down and write it, even if it's a super detailed outline and not the scene itself. That's really what helps me, I think, to not feel like I'm stuck, is to just outline as intensely as I want to and not worry about making the scene perfect in the moment. Just writing down all my ideas, dialogue even if I want to, and if it's coming to me. And once I have all of these out of order scenes, the fun part is like putting them together, putting them in chronological order, figuring out where do these scenes fall in the timeline of the story and where are there maybe gaps that need to be filled in. So everyone's method is different. Everyone's writing process is different. This is just how I personally deal with this, is by outlining intensely, outlining as much as I want to. And if there are some areas that are not as intensely outlined, that's okay. Because once I get to that point where I need to figure out what goes there, I will either be just writing the first draft and it comes to me, or I can figure that out later. But taking all my messy thoughts and putting them in order, that is a big job, of course. But using something like the 3-act story structure can help a lot to organize those ideas and make them flow coherently. Thank you for the super chat. Let's see. Okay. Tips on finding confidence in your writing. Ooh, this is something that Kate and I talk about a lot on our podcast, which if you have not signed up for that, go check it out on Kate's YouTube channel. You can subscribe to her channel. She does awesome videos for writers and creatives, and we post a podcast there every week. And we talk about confidence a lot because it is a constant struggle for a lot of writers, and I've struggled with it too. And I just feel like the more experience, the more time that goes by, the more confident you get in your writing. But it is definitely an ever-present struggle, so you are not alone. That is the first thing to remind yourself of, that every writer experiences this, and the writers you look up to the most have felt doubt about their writing. So everyone deals with it. Everyone goes through this. It's not just you. It has nothing to do with the quality of your writing, because every artist doubts themselves at some point. And the important thing to do is just stay in your lane. Don't compare yourself to anyone else. Focus on doing your best. And even if you feel like you have a crappy writing day or your writing isn't quite where you want it to be, it's making you better. That's what I always try to remind myself of, is experience always, always, always just improves your skill. Okay, and it can be boring sometimes, it can be tedious, but the more you write, the better you get. There are no bad writing days. Your writing is either great or it is making you great, and there's no in between. So be confident. Also, positive affirmations can be very helpful. Thank you to Justin. Thanks for the super chat. How are you doing? I'm doing good. Do you ever get blocked? And if so, how do you deal with it? So I definitely have experienced writer's block a lot, and it's not fun, but the best thing I have found in my experience is to write, even when I don't feel like it. Even when I think that I have writer's block, that I can't write, or that it's just not coming to me the way I want it to tell myself that I can't write and leave it alone and set it aside and go through the act of ignoring my work, whatever the case may be, is almost like establishing that blockage and telling yourself that, yeah, you can't. Look, you can't. You're not writing. You can't write. This isn't a good writing day. Whereas if I push through the uncomfortable time of feeling like, oh, I don't have inspiration, I don't have any ideas, if I push through that and I write something, it is a contradiction to that emotion, really, that wants to keep you in that stuck place. This is just what I've personally experienced, that it really helps me to just push through and do the thing. You don't want to do it, so what? Just do it anyway. Or write something different. That also really helps, is to write something different, something that's fun, something that's self-indulgent, whatever is the most fun thing that you can possibly think of to write, do that and take away the intimidation factor, because most of the time writer's block is just writers intimidating themselves and telling yourself that you can't do something that you're perfectly capable of doing. You just have these unrealistic expectations and you're overwhelming yourself with them. So that's just what I've personally experienced. Thank you for the super chat. Hopefully that helps. Okay. Oh, hold on. Wait. Any tips on writing good flashbacks without making the chapters confusing? I love writing flashbacks. As you probably know, I'm obsessed with flashbacks, and I have a whole video on writing flashbacks, so check that out. Go to my channel or go to YouTube and type in Abbie Emmons flashbacks. Click on that first video and watch that. In that video, I talk about the principle of making flashbacks feel seamless by using the law of cause and effect in your story. So everything that happens, there's a reason for it happening. We can clearly see the trigger and the result it has on the story, the impact that it has on the story going forward. We should know why we are seeing everything that we're seeing, okay? It should feel relevant to us. So flashbacks can be the same exact way. You just have to make sure that there's a clear trigger and a clear impact it has on the story going forward. So why are we in this flashback? Why are we seeing this right now? Has something triggered it? Either for the protagonist, if they're witnessing this flashback from first person, or just from their perspective, their point of view, something that triggered them to remember it, or something that triggered them to tell someone else about it. Anything that leads in so that we understand why we're seeing this. And the second, but still important side of this is making sure that has a significant impact on the story going forward. Because if it doesn't, we're like, why do we go into that flashback? So check out that video. I go deeper into it on that video, and I think that will help you a lot. Okay, let's see. How do you focus on one story if so many different ideas from different genres are flooding your head? This is something I definitely have dealt with and continue to struggle with because I have a lot of ideas. I have tons of story ideas constantly, and it's really hard to choose between them because I love all of them, obviously. So finding focus can be difficult sometimes. And what I've found helps me to find focus is to not limit my brainstorming sessions or ideas. When I start thinking about a story idea, I don't shut that down. I let myself explore that and brainstorm that and think about it if I want to, if I feel inspired to think about it. And if I get new ideas for that, cool. But that might not be the story that I'm focusing on next. I think the important thing to focus on is the story that you feel the most excited and passionate about right now. And there will always be one that goes over the others. And I know you're passionate about all of them, but at this point in your life, what do you feel is, if you could only write one more? Okay, that's another good prompt. If you could only write one more story, which one would it be? And that's a difficult question to ask yourself, I know, but a lot of times intuitively, you know exactly which one it is. And that is the one that you should focus on next, because that is what intuitively matters the most to you. And your story has to matter to you the most, you as the author, in order for you to see it through and have that fire, that passion for it, the whole writing process and publishing process, because we know how difficult that can be. Okay, I'm going to answer one more question, and then we're going to get into our third and final writing sprint. How do you find your writing style? This is another one that I get asked a lot, and I've talked about this in videos in the past, and it's a multifaceted question. So the first part is your writing style as an author, right? You're trying to find your writing style as an author. The answer to this one is annoying, but it's time, experience, practice. That is how you find your writing style. That's how you find the intricacies of storytelling that you love the most, okay? But as far as story to story, I personally believe that writing style should vary with each new book that you pick up from an author, especially with different stories and different characters going on. It should feel like a different experience. And depending on the perspective, the character, the point of view character should feel like a different writing style. This is something that I think a lot of writers get tripped up on in the beginning, is focusing too much on finding their voice instead of finding the character's voice, because the character is really what the skin in which we're experiencing the story. We are watching this story unfold through this character's perspective, through their eyes. So how do they see the world? What is their writing style? That is something that totally changed the way I looked at writing style and helped me to grow as an author, as a writer, is not to look at each story as I'm telling this story, but as my point of view characters are telling this story. And so writing style will change and vary depending on who's telling the story. Like, yeah, it's me, but it's ultimately my characters. Now, of course, your style will inevitably be in there because you are writing the story. These characters are not real. I know it's hard to accept. It is sad to think about, but they do exist in a way. And finding their voice is really what is going to bring that unique tone and unique vibrancy to your writing, something that your readers will remember. And that's always my goal, is finding my character's voice, which makes the writing experience way more fun, I find, as an author. Rather than me writing another book, it feels like a new character telling a new story. And what's their voice going to be? And how is their voice based on their perspective, their beliefs, everything that they've been through in life? So explore that and see where it takes you. Okay, let's get into our final writing sprint. Get your timers ready. I want to dive back into this scene and see if I can finish it before we're done here. 25 minutes on the clock. I have the sun is coming through again, so let's shut that. Okay. Ready? Let's go. Timer number 3. Sprint number 3 just ended. And this chapter is getting way longer than I thought it would be. So, tell me how it went. How did your final writing sprint go? Let me know in the chat. I hope it went well for you. Let's see. Today, since we've been here, I've written over 1,000 words. So, not a ton, but I'm happy with my progress. Okay, so looks like you guys had a good sprint and a good writing session in total this whole time that we've been hanging out and writing together. Looks like you got a lot of words written, and that is awesome. Congratulations. You should be super proud of yourself for showing up, for taking the time for your art, your amazing passion. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your writing day. If you continue to write, or if you have to run off and do something else, totally understand. I'm glad that you got the time to show up with me and get some writing done. It was awesome. It was really fun. Thank you guys so much for being here. And what a great way to kick off the new year. I'm really excited for everything that's coming this year, and so excited to share all the new content that I have planned for this channel. And again, I'm going to be looking into Discord, looking into starting kind of an offsite community where we can all hang out kind of like this style more often, and have that as a good place for the community to get together and talk about writing and share and explore all of this together. It's going to be really great, and I'm looking forward to all of it. So stay tuned for updates on all of that, and of course subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the like button if you didn't do that already. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you in the next video, which is coming out next Wednesday. So might be a vlog, might be something else, I'm not sure yet. We'll see. It'll be a surprise. But thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you had a great time. I had a great time. I loved seeing your smiling faces, and I will see you next week, okay? Until then, rock on. Shh.